So who am I? My name is Anel Martin. I've got 15 years experience working as a corporate PA. I'm past title bearer of PA of the Year South Africa in 2011. I've recently had the opportunity to publish a book entitled Building a Powerful Personal Brand under the auspices of Executive Secretary magazine. I've been running my own training company for 2 years. I'm a qualified coach, and I absolutely love working with PA clients, helping them take their performance to the next level. And I'm one of the directors of the SIPO Adminversary, an initiative designed to uplift and provide skills to underprivileged youth in South Africa. So then we get into our presentation, the connection economy, what it means for today's assistants. The world is changing rapidly, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that one of the major drivers for this is technology. We've seen the humble typewriter come and go. We've seen the fax machine come and go. It's amazing for me to think that in today's world, we can run our entire office from a small mobile device in our pockets. This has been advantageous to the modern assistant because it means we are no longer bound to our offices, but it's also had an unexpected downside. We've started working more hours than traditionally we've ever done in the past. We work while we're on sick leave. We work while we should be on vacation. So technology has come with upsides and downsides. Communication. We spend more and more time communicating electronically. We've lost the art of face-to-face communication. And this is mainly due to the speed, the low cost, and the ease of online communication. So that's been a major change in our office landscapes. The other thing is information. Not only the way we consume it, but also the availability and the sheer volume of information that's available. It's been said that at this point in time, we all have access to the information. What will set you apart and make you special is how you use the information. There's been a surge in social media, and when I say surge, it's not only the numbers of subscribers on various platforms, but the actual uses of social media. There's also a large number of people competing for a limited amount of positions. This situation will not likely change anytime soon, so we need to be aware. To be competitive in this market, we need to be something special. The automation of jobs is a fear and a concern which transcends industries and countries. Assistants from all around the world ask me, Anel, will I be replaced by an app? Will Siri take my job? And there's good news and there's bad news. The average assistants will most definitely be replaced by apps and online tools. But those of us who are adding superior value will always be employable. There's been a fallout from the economic downturn. We saw a lot of our middle managers being retrenched, and we had to assume certain responsibilities that traditionally assistants were not responsible for. The upside is that gives us an extra specialization, extra tools in our toolbox, if you will. The downside is that very few of us ever received any formal training on these additional tasks, and even less of us received any additional income or remuneration for doing these tasks. The future will need new skills. There will be an assumption that the hard skills, the technical skills are in place. So there will be a bigger focus around softer skills and more creative skills in the future. And I'm going to share in the next slide the top skills for 2020, which I'm pretty excited about. Research suggests that in 5 years, 15% of what you know now will still be relevant. What does that mean for us? It means that if we are not developing, we are standing still. In fact, we're not standing still, we're actually falling behind. So continuous personal development will become a major factor that we all need to embrace and really make it our own responsibility and become accountable for that if we want to future-proof our careers. Comfort zone and job security is a thing of the past. In the past, you could work for the same company for 20 years, or 25 years, or 30 years. In today's world, the global average for tenure with a single company is 4.5 years, which means we will be applying for a new job at some point. We will be changing managers at some point. It is very important that we start embracing change as the new normal. The speed and intensity of work. Now, technology, communication, information, cost cutting, all these are factors that have increased the intensity and the speed at which we need to work. We're all expected to do more with less. So, are we ready for the future? So what are the top skills for 2020 and where do they come from? Well, the World Economic Forum produces a report every 5 years in conjunction with senior HR officials and also chief strategy officers from around the globe. They talk about what skills will be desirable in the future and what they'll be recruiting for. So here is the list in order of importance. Number 1, complex problem solving. Assistants use complex problem solving almost daily. We work with tasks that are unique that we've never worked on before. We resolve issues as they arise, whether it's on a project, whether it's on travel arrangements, or simply in the daily lives of our managers. We reach out to our networks, we Google, or sometimes we simply just use our common sense. But this is an ability that the really great assistants all display. The next one is critical thinking. Now, the definition of critical thinking is the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. As assistants, we're expected to review and analyze information. We're expected to be practical and intelligent. We need to understand what's happening in a high-level discussion, and we're expected to translate these strategic instructions into practical solutions, work orders to others, and concrete action. We're often expected to weigh up alternatives on behalf of our managers and to suggest which alternative to take by weighing up the pros and cons. The next skill is creativity. Now, when I say creativity, I'm not talking about being arty-farty. I'm talking about the ability to join the dots. It's about seeing things in a unique way. We use creativity, whether it comes to creating a new process in our office, streamlining a standard operating procedure, sorting out a diary conflict, making a birthday card. We use creativity in many ways in our offices every day. The next one on the list is people management. Our managers are spending more and more time behind closed doors or in meetings. So a lot of the people management falls to us. The team will come to you and say, what do you think the boss would prefer? Or is the boss in a good mood today? Can I talk to the boss? You also end up dealing with their leave requests, following up with them on action items that the boss has given them to do. Assistants are taking up more of the people management portion of the boss's job, which leaves them free to lead the organization. The next one on the list is coordinating with others. Assistants and project managers are, in my opinion, the only staff who are really expected to work cross-functionally and across all levels in the organization on a very regular basis. We need to schedule with other divisions, we need to manage stakeholders in our team and externally, and we also need to ensure that all role players produce the work that they need to ensure the success of the project. We manage up, down, sideways, and we have to bring people together without ego and without the ability to use positional power. The next item on the list I found particularly interesting. It's emotional intelligence. Now, according to a survey conducted by Avery on assistants, they found that PAs have great emotional intelligence. I want to share an extract from the survey with you. Both PAs and the other employees were required to take an IQ test as part of the research. The test showed no difference in the intelligence levels of PAs and the rest of the working population. Despite PAs having fewer academic qualifications than their colleagues, they were no less intelligent. Where PAs did excel was when it came to emotional intelligence. Their skills in managing their own emotions and the interpersonal relationships around them were found to be significantly better than non-PAs. I completely agree with these findings. In my own experience, I don't think you can be a good assistant without exceptionally high EQ. The next skill on the list is judgment and decision making. Often, assistants are called upon to make decisions in their boss's absence. Decision making is always based on your experience and your business acumen. And the quality of your decision making will be influenced by how empowered you are. Naturally, we need to be aware of the delegation of authority. In other words, which decisions are in your purview. We also need to be accountable and take responsibility for the consequences of our decision making. Decision making is a skill, and this can be learned and practiced. It helps when you increase your business knowledge, but also as you gain self-confidence. The next item on the list I found to be quite surprising. It's service orientation. I think this is quite amazing for me to think about, that in the future service orientation will be highly valued. In the past, service-related jobs were often looked down upon, but no longer. In the new economy, business will be based on trust and relationships, so this is very significant. The next item on the list is negotiation. We often need to use influence versus positional power to get things done. So we are using negotiation on a very regular basis, whether it's resolving a conflict between two team members or speaking to an angry client and getting them to calm down and to solve their problem. We also often deal with people who outrank us and that we need to get performance from. This is when you use negotiation skills, and I think that PAs are very good at this. The last item on the list is cognitive flexibility. This basically means that you're not stuck in one way of thinking. And in the future, we'll need to have this flexibility. We'll need to adjust to new environments, new situations, and I think that assistants are quite good at this already. So does this list make you feel positive about the future? It should. Very few employees are as well positioned as we are to face the imminent changes in the world of work. The evolution from the industrial, information, traditional employment spaces into the future of collaboration, idea creation, connecting and problem solving is upon us. The challenge to us is to really focus on these top 10 skills and to build and enhance them in the next few years so that our careers are truly future-proof. 2020 is loading. This presentation just wouldn't be complete without a nod to Seth Godin. I found his work very inspirational, and it's seldom that you come across an author who puts into words what you feel and what you think in such an accurate and precise way. I've been very influenced by his work and wanted to share some of this information with the PA community at large because I think it's going to make a big difference in the months and years to come. If you read only one book by Seth Godin, I would highly recommend the book Linchpin to you, which talks about how you become indispensable in your company. And I do think that as PAs, we need to start adding more value, more consistently, and start working on a much higher level to ensure sustainability of our roles. I also want to recommend that you check out Seth Godin's TED Talks, anything you can find on YouTube about him and his subject matter. Subscribe to his blog, check out some of the quotes online. I've shared some of my favorites with you during this presentation. So what is the connection economy? To understand where we are now, it's always important to look back at history. Historically, there were different industrial ages and each was driven by its own technology. So if we had to use an example, the agrarian age used animals to plow the field, and that was their main technology. When the industrial age dawned, it was driven by the development of steam technology. Another important thing to realize is that no industrial age ends abruptly. They usually overlap somewhat. The age that we are transitioning out of at the moment is called the information age, which was driven by the development and use of the internet, which made communication happen at speed, which made the availability of information so much more important in our business world. The connection economy is driven by social media. It's about harnessing relationships. It's about being able to self-publish, and it's given consumers voices and choices. Something that's quite significant and that we need to be aware of in the connection economy is that transactions will be based on trust and relationships. And trust and relationships and a good brand and respect from others will have real financial value. If we look at trust and relationships, those would be classified as soft skills. Everyone now owns the means of production. So what do I mean by that? Access to the internet and to these social media platforms gives us the power that only large corporations had a few decades ago. We can create and sell our own products with ease, whether it's self-publishing a book or loading a video on YouTube, maybe writing a blog or selling your artwork on Facebook. We now all own the factory. For the modern assistant, this is phenomenal news. It means that you're no longer an employee in the old-fashioned sense of the word. You now own your own company and you sell skills to your employer. You can also use social media to build this small business of yours and to raise your profile and your brand in your chosen industry. We don't need anyone's permission to produce products anymore because of this ability and this ownership of the means of production. We'll need to move away from the idea of getting a job to creating jobs. So entrepreneurship will be much more important in the future. There'll be two very significant routes that we can follow in the future. One is the road to the bottom. And the road to the bottom, in essence, is about doing everything faster and cheaper. There's a loss of quality, and it's really typified by the kind of assistants who will say, this is not on my job description. We've always done it this way, so why are we changing? I don't know how to do this. These will be the assistants who are working only on instructions. And if the factory owner knows exactly what you do, they will find somebody cheaper to do your job. The second option that's open to us, or the second route, if you will, is the road to the top. And I'm much, much more interested in this route. This is about working without a map, innovation, problem solving, streamlining your own systems, adding value that only you can add. You need to start fulfilling a role that even another great assistant can't do, adding something that's uniquely you to your everyday interactions. We all need to start making a bit of magic. We need to bring something of ourselves to work every day. The premium assistants in the world are already on the road to the top, and they are functioning as fully fledged business managers. PAs have stepped up, they've taken more responsibility, they've become more assertive, and they know their own value. And they also function as professionals. These assistants have taken the time to improve their business acumen and their skill sets. They know that things are changing fast, and they've adopted an attitude of lifelong learning. And it's much, much more important to realize that in the future, we will all be doing human work. As mentioned, in the new economy, nobody is going to be rewarded for doing safe or average work anymore. These are our choices, and I hope that you will all be choosing the road to the top. In the connection economy, we'll be dealing with 4 pillars and 2 principles, and this concept was developed by Seth Godin. The first pillar is coordination. This is an integral part of the function we already perform daily as assistants. We bring people together, we connect others in our network, we know who does what, and we can use that to solve problems successfully. We schedule important role players so that they can do important work. I think you'll agree with me that very few successful assistants need anyone to teach them about coordination. This is the who you know is much more important than what you know part of the job. This is about joining the dots and connecting people who otherwise wouldn't have met or collaborated in a significant way. The next pillar is trust. Again, many assistants around the world are often the most trusted employee on the manager's team or payroll. They have access to confidential information and are incredibly discreet. If they are consistent, highly competent and honest in their dealings, and prove themselves to be dependable, the trust follows naturally. Trust has and always will add great value to your career. Being trustworthy can only be good for your brand and for your future. The next pillar is permission. This has to do with how we need to market or advertise to others in the modern economy. Spam and hard selling and interrupting people by screaming at them via email or social media is an outdated concept. People's time is becoming ever more precious. How many of us receive these emails from training companies that we simply delete because we've been interrupted, and this is unsolicited marketing? This also applies to getting noticed in your own team for a promotion or an opportunity, and in your professional networks. We all need to add value first and then ask the person for help, or if they want to hear from us, before we bombard them with emails and information that they don't need. The question is, do they care what you have to say when you send that email? If you don't send the email, will they ask you why they didn't get it? If they don't, you don't have permission. The next pillar is the exchange of ideas. This takes high confidence and a worldview of abundance. If you hold back on what you know and the ideas that you have, it usually speaks to insecurity and the fact that you don't know how good you are. By sharing ideas freely, you gain new information and skills in return. This will be absolutely critical in our profession and all others in the years to come. No one knows everything and no one needs to know everything. This is where mentorship and collaboration becomes so important. The 2 principles involved in the connection economy. The first one is making art. This is not about painting pictures. It's about doing something special in each interaction. I always use the example of the air hostess who says, chicken or beef, chicken or beef, chicken or beef. That's not making art. But once in a while, you meet an air hostess who takes a special interest in one of the people flying, whether it's a little old lady that she takes an extra blanket to, or a smile, or something that's really human in that interaction. That is making art. It can't be faked and it can't be copied. When you make art, you are vulnerable and it takes courage. Doing things differently may not always work. It's about creating and innovating and seeing the world from a different perspective. So this is a very brave act. This is about standing out and no longer fitting in. The next principle is generosity. It's so sadly lacking from today's office landscapes. To give of your time and your talent and your skills without expectations. This already makes you unique and valuable. If you teach others, you go the extra mile, you work kindly with people, you will stand out in a world where everyone wants to know what's in it for them. The scarcity mentality is now outdated. It's no longer about winning or competing. The future is about collaborating. Okay, I know that these concepts sound very foreign to anyone working in a traditional working environment that's still stuck in the industrial age or even in the information era. But I assure you that these are the cornerstones for success in the future, and we need to start implementing these to ensure our survival in a world which is rapidly changing. Remember, there are only two roads, and we need to choose wisely. Social media makes the connection economy possible. We need to realize that it's no longer if you do social media, but how well you do it. I'm sure many other people can testify to the opportunities and friendships that they've managed to create by using social media. Social media isn't all bad. There are 2 billion subscribers on Facebook as of July 2017, and the group that's growing the fastest is over 50 females, which I find quite interesting. The most new positions are now referred to you by your network. So if you are in the job market, chances are that somebody in your social media network or in your immediate network will tell you about jobs. LinkedIn has become a major force in the recruitment and vetting of candidates. So I've included a freebie in this webinar, and it's loaded on my website. Please go and have a look. I've created a 5-day activity which takes you through creating and setting up a successful LinkedIn profile step by step. Please, LinkedIn has become an online CV of sorts. It's become a place to profile your professional brand. Please make sure that if you don't have one in place, that you really take some time to set this up. Why? Because 92% of recruitment in 2015 was done via social media platforms, and the bulk of that happened on LinkedIn. You may not necessarily be in the job market right now, but things change. You may also be missing out on incredible opportunities outside of your employment by not being listed on LinkedIn. As I've mentioned, you can now publish, post videos, sell things, and you can create an amazing professional profile. You can blog, you can sell photographs, you can advertise anything that you like, which means you can now create a second stream of income, which makes you less dependent on one income from your full-time job. Being visible and connected is valuable in the new economy, so make sure that you spend some time managing your social media networks. The connection economy is already here. You don't believe me? Well, social media has made it easy to connect with our own communities. I love using the example of Executive Secretary Magazine's Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn page. It's brought together a tribe of people from across the globe who have shared interests, shared problems, and that have grown into a community online. We are using free learning resources shared on social media for our personal development. Personal development is exactly that. It's personal. It is not HR's job, it's your job. And not having money is no longer an excuse. We all have the access to information. It's simply how much time we take to find the information and how we put it to work. We're already relying on recommendations from our networks more than we believe any marketing or ads. Again, I like to use the example of Executive Secretary Magazine's Facebook page. It's an example that happens often, so you can go and have a look for yourself. Let's say, for example, I'm looking for a fantastic sushi restaurant in London, but I don't know London well. I can ask the question on their page, and literally within an hour or two, have many responses and recommendations directly from another PA. which really does make a lot more sense than simply Googling. We use social media to find out about people for our bosses or for ourselves prior to meetings or locating people's contact information. You did notice that I said no stalking allowed. But seriously, it does give us an opportunity to check some biographical information, to find out more about companies before we go for interviews, to get a bit of information before we go to networking events about the hosts, etc., etc. We have the ability to check reviews online. As mentioned before, in the connection economy, every single customer has a voice and a choice. This gives us the ability to go onto Twitter and put in a company name to find out what customers are actually saying about them. There are many platforms, something like TripAdvisor comes to mind, where we can check in on hotels and what the reviews are. We tend to buy from people that we like and trust. They may even cost a little bit more. I always use the example of being able to use two different travel agents. One costs a little bit more, but never lets you down. I think it's a no-brainer on which one you'll end up using. So why does this all matter? Well, your next position or exciting non-work opportunity might come from social media. My first international speaking engagement I found via social media. I've met some of the most amazing people in my life via social media. Make sure you're not missing out. It gives you the ability to build a desirable professional brand. You can be as good as you want to be. If nobody knows about you, it's irrelevant. You also have the ability to position yourself as a subject matter expert. As I've mentioned, we can all publish articles on a platform like LinkedIn. You can start blogging about something that you're passionate about. This all raises your profile in the market. Gives us the ability to share and collaborate with others. And what's been so exciting to me is this is not only just people in your own backyard, but also on a global scale. It's not what you know anymore. I've mentioned before in this presentation that we all have access to information. It's going to be how you use that information to your benefit. It'll help you keep your skills relevant without spending money. We all live in a world now where cost cutting has become a reality. Training money has become a real issue in companies. You can now look after your own toolbox and your own skill set without looking in anyone's eyes for money. In fact, investing the time in finding the resources that are available will be financially beneficial to you in the long run. We can all make a bit of extra money by using our talents and our skills and by selling them online. You can live out your creativity. Whether you sing or write or take photographs, we all have the ability to share what we can do. The connection economy thrives on abundance. Connection creates more connections. Trust creates more trust. And ideas create more ideas. So here's some top tips from me on how you could be successful in the connection economy. Number one, make strong relationships a priority. Maintain relationships before you need them. Make sure that you have regular contact with customers, suppliers, stakeholders, both internally and externally, and make sure that you build these over time. Number two, maintain your network. Get out there. Make sure that you attend business networking events that you get invited to. Make sure that you meet new people whenever you have the opportunity, because you never know where those interactions might lead you to. Keep developing your EQ and communication skills. Make sure that you use the abilities that you already have to your advantage. As assistants, we have generally, as a group, we have very high EQ and very good communication skills. These will be big ticket items in the future, so keep working on them. Grow your tribe on social. Again, you never know which opportunities which new positions, what new piece of learning might fall into your lap through your tribe on social. Don't be the chicken or beef airline attendant. Make sure that whatever you do, you add something special. Sometimes it's as simple as caring about somebody and giving them a nice broad smile. Make sure that you bring something to your job that makes you unique. Do human work. It's hard and it's valuable. There is such a massive deficit in the workplace today of human work. Make sure that you don't paint by numbers. Innovate, create, streamline, and solve problems. The time of saying we're doing it like this because we've always done it like this is long gone. Make sure that you look at every single touch point in your office daily and find ways to make it faster, cheaper, more accessible, easier to follow. Whatever it is in your world that you can innovate around or streamline around, make sure that you use those opportunities. Start managing yourself. You own your capabilities. As I've mentioned, 5% of what we know now, 15% of what we know now will be relevant in 5 years' time. HR is not going to spend their time worrying about your development. That's your job. Start managing your company. You are the CEO. Know what you're good at. What do you sell? When I ask assistants around the world, name 5 things that you're not good at. They can all list 15. When I ask them, tell me 3 things that you excel at. They have a very hard time. Please make sure you identify your skill sets, your strengths, the stuff that you are really magnificent at, and own it. Step up with confidence and say, this is what I'm good at. Become a linchpin in your organization. Now, the book I've mentioned to you by Seth Godin is absolutely incredible. I'm going to go through how you become a linchpin and what the attributes are of a linchpin in a little bit of detail to follow, but become indispensable, become somebody that they need.
So I want to start by asking you a pretty serious question. I don't want you to answer it out loud, but I want you to answer it honestly to yourself. And the question is really simple. Are you a genius? It's a little uncomfortable. If you do a search on Google for is a genius, all these pictures show up. The thing is, Albert Einstein sort of ruined the whole genius thing for people because we got this feeling that in order to be a genius, you have to revolutionize quantum mechanics or something that we don't even understand. And I'm here to talk about a fundamental shift in the world that we live in. It used to be that one guy had the leverage to really make a difference in an organization and in the world. But what occurred is we switched to a world of factory farming. We switched to a world of factories. We switched to a world where business was about building systems that made money. The most important person of the 20th century, when they look back 500 years from now, is this guy. You may not recognize him as Henry Ford. What Henry Ford did that was so important is he figured out how to build a system that enabled him to take a 50-cent-a-day man and give him enough leverage and enough productivity that he could afford to pay that guy $5. The system was the king. The system was all about getting stuff done fast and productive. And we invented school. Universal schooling is only 150 years old. We built this system to teach people to fit in. And the reason is because if you fit in, you become a compliant cog in a giant machine. And the reason I came here is because now there's a new class of person, an artist. And when I say artist, I don't mean artist the way you might think of artist. When I say artist, I mean somebody who does human work, unpredictable work, makes a connection with someone else, and changes them for the better. That what art is the opposite of being a compliant cog. That what Picasso did for a living was he did not become a replacement for the camera. We had cameras. We didn't need someone to become a system who would just paint things as they were. He painted things as he saw them. What art became is the work of a human being who's doing something that someone else couldn't do. Artists aren't necessarily people who can draw. Now, the thing is that if painting is your job, it's not art. It's paint by numbers. And that's an interesting item, but it's not one that we value very highly because anybody could do it. So if I had to boil it down to just a few words, it's this simple. If I can write down what you need to do, if I can give you the map, then I can find someone to do it cheaper, and I will. So we look at this and we get really nervous. And what the market's going to say to you is, you know what? You can try to charge extra, but if all hugs are the same, I'll take these hugs. Thank you very much. Part of the challenge here is this. Let me get a little economic geeky on you here. A talented pin maker could make 8 pins a day. And so you paid them a fair amount because it wasn't easy to make pins. After the pin making machine was made, 4 untalented people with 10 minutes of training could make 10,000 pins a day. And Karl Marx looked at this and said, 2 teams, owners, workers, something just changed. Here's the thing. So let's say you want to make a video, or write a book, or start a radio station, or sell handmade crafts. Here's the bad, scary thing. No one can say no to you anymore. You don't have to say, I got rejected by that publisher. The FCC won't give me a license. I can't get to the crafts fair. No one on NBC will put my show online. Just do it. You can go. There's no one to blame it on anymore. So I think there's a hierarchy here, and it's a hierarchy you might be familiar with. The lowest thing you can do to get paid for is lifting. It is growing stuff, producing stuff, selling stuff, which is really hard because people are afraid to do it, connecting other people, because that takes the work of the heart, and finally creating and inventing stuff, which no one ever taught us how to do. The problem is that if you spend your time following instructions, you have to work 14 hours a day for not much money. You're not looking for a path. If there's a path, then everyone's on it. You're looking for choices. The more choices there are, the more chances you have to do something interesting and remarkable. So I'm not here to say you must be an entrepreneur. They are what I'm calling linchpins. People we can't live without. People who take real risks. Not financial risks, but emotional risks. They're artists. I'm going to argue Warren Buffett is an artist. Warren Buffett doesn't have to tell us all the stuff he tells us. He could just be this anonymous billionaire, but he's not. He's teaching us stuff. That what artists do, in addition to changing people, is they give gifts. Art is based on the idea that there's an exchange of gifts, not a financial exchange. And here's the reason. When I sell you something, we're done. It's over. We're now farther apart. What art needs to do is bring us closer together. Right? Art is this connection that comes from one person making a gift to another. That doesn't mean that people who do art get nothing. But in the short run, you must be willing to give something extra. So it's the art of doing it when you're not required, that when an artist realizes they have abundance, that they're not going to run out of ideas, that they're not going to run out of smiles, and they realize, wait, I better give some of this stuff away or it's going to spoil. That this idea of abundance instead of scarcity flies in the face of owning a factory. Factories are all about scarcity. Why would anyone buy something if they didn't need it? But what people who make art realize, the more they touch people, the more they change people, the better they do. So this idea of day's work for day's pay is bogus. That what we need to do instead is figure out how to have this posture of change and posture of generosity. So why is this so hard? Because 80% of you think I'm completely full of it. It's hard because people might laugh at us. And that's what we want. We want someone to tell us what to do. We want to be more average than average. The lizard brain says, whoa, 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 whoa. You're talking about things that could get me in real trouble. So let me tell you 7 different ways that linchpins do what they do, and they're very different. 1, they create a unique interface between the customer and the organization. If you've got someone in the organization who's the one, number 2 is you bring a special kind of creativity to situations that your coworkers can't figure out how to do. That's a skill. You can learn it. You're not born with it. The third one is you know how to manage projects of great complexity. Right? Think about that person in your office. Doesn't matter how many inputs there are. They can get that movie produced. They can get that conference pulled off. Those people are really hard to find and important to hold on to. The next one is leading customers. Figuring out how to establish a tribe and take them somewhere. The next one is inspiring staff. That person, at any level in the organization, almost never the CEO, who the rest of the staff will follow to do almost anything. It's hard to live without that person too. And the 6th one is deep domain knowledge. The geek, the uber geek, the person who knows everything about black ink and the 12 different kinds of Pantone cells and the different specific weights and measures of the whole thing. And the 7th one is the one you came in thinking was the only one. And that's being really good at the thing. Anyone recognize this guy? This is the most famous, in Australia, talented over-the-top sportsman who ever lived. His name was Donald Bradman. He was 3 times better at cricket than Michael Jordan was at basketball. He was 4 times better at cricket than Tiger Woods was at golf. This guy was the greatest cricket player who ever lived. Just a newsflash. You are not Donald Bradman. You will never be the Donald Bradman of anything. So stop letting the lizard brain tell you you're not good enough. Yeah, none of us are as good as Donald Bradman. That's okay, because what we're really looking for is passion, right? That what really matters is being willing to stand up and make it happen, to ship. This idea of shipping, of getting it out the door, is so much more powerful than it used to be. Because it used to be that there were all these people who could say, no, it's not ready. And all these people who used to say, no, we have to wait. But now it's so easy to get to market that shipping is what matters. So here's the question. I want you to think hard before you answer it. And I don't want you to say anything, I just want you to do something. If the answer to this question is yes, stand up.
So, quick question. Are you a linchpin PA? Do you provide a unique interface between people? Are you the person who connects the dots and encourages the collaboration? Are you the person that when your boss runs into an external stakeholder, they always compliment him and say, I love working with your office, your assistant is amazing? Do you deliver unique creativity? Are you always on speed dial when problems need to be solved? Are you the go-to person when an event needs to be put together or brainstorming needs to happen? Can you manage complexity? Are you the employee with all the pots on the stove and all the balls in the air? Is it easy for you to keep your finger on all the running projects? Do you lead your customers? Are you good to your customers? Do your customers love you? Do you own your customers? Do you solve their problems? Do you inspire the staff around you? Assistants have much more influence over morale than they realize. Do you provide deep domain knowledge? Are you the go-to person when somebody has questions about the policies and the processes or the new travel system, for example? Do you possess and practice your unique talent? What is it that only you can do? Do you know what your superpower is, and are you using it to its full potential? Here is our call to action. We all own our own brands, but we are also co-owners of the assistant brand globally. So the question is, when your colleagues or your clients see you in action, are you good for the global reputation of our profession? Are you a good investment for your company financially? Are they getting value for money for the salary that they pay you? Do you know what your secret sauce is? Sadly, when I ask assistants across the globe what their weaknesses are, they can give me a telephone book full, but when I ask them what they're really exceptional at, they have difficulty verbalizing this. Are you realistic about your performance and your abilities? Are you complacent or striving for the next level? Personal development is no longer HR's job. We all need to own our own development going forward. The brave will be rewarded. Nothing magical happens in your comfort zone. So step up and take opportunities as they come along. Be premium and unique. This will ensure your survival. Your brand already has financial value. The question is, are you managing it? And if you don't love your customers enough to try and keep them, a competitor will be more than happy to do that for you. So thanks for joining me on today's webinar. I hope you found it helpful, and if you need any additional support, there's just a few things I wanted you to know about. I host free learning circles on a quarterly basis. Learning circles are email-based learning, and the amount of delegates are limited to ensure that I can give you personal attention. I've got some free resources available on my website. I mentioned the LinkedIn activities, but I also have information on resilience, on brand health assessment, so please check that out. I'm planning to launch an affordable online learning academy because I know that personal development is so important for us, and sadly, there are so many assistants who can't afford it. So please keep your eyes and ears open for that. My training schedule is also on my website. So if you want to catch up in person, it tells you where I'll be and when I'll be there. I do coaching 101 or in a group, and I specialize in goal setting and also specific dilemma-based coaching. I do web or face-to-face training for companies, and this is done once I've done consultations and customized the programs for each customer. Please also check out my brand book on Amazon. I'd appreciate your support. Okay, so here's a list of my contact information. My website, my email address, my Facebook page, and also my Twitter handle. I really hope you'll keep in touch and that you've enjoyed today's session. Thanks for your support.